Welcome to Business Influencers. Hope everyone is having a great week. We want to thank you each and every week joining us here at Business Influencers. Again, just a few weeks ago, we went past our 50th episode. Is that hard to believe that we started this show about exactly a year ago, and we're already at past 50 episodes. So we have been consistent every week, providing subject matter experts, sharing their words of wisdom and insights to help move your business and personal success to the next level. And we have to thank you, the listeners, each and every week joining us here at TALRadio, also listening to us on Apple, Spotify, and our YouTube channel at the TALRadio YouTube channel, Spotify, Apple, and TALRadio station. We appreciate all of you, and we are committed to your success. If you have any comments or would like to provide any feedback to any of our experts we've had on, please get back to us here at chris@christophersalem.com. We'd be more than happy to address all of your questions because we, again, are committed to everything that you're doing to move your business and personal success to the next level. Our show is being brought to you today by Alumni Direct. Alumni Direct is a new social media community platform dedicated to bringing alumni together from all different generational types, an opportunity to rekindle old relationships and perhaps meet new people for the first time. This is a membership program, and what's exciting about this, it takes away all the noise of social media. No more notifications and all those things that draw you in when you're busy doing other things. You get to come in and on your time and generate genuine and authentic relationships with the people that truly matter in terms of your personal relationships and new business connections. Again, you may land your next new job opportunity or perhaps start a new business as a result of Alumni Direct. Check them out at alumnidirect.com. That's alumnidirect.com. We got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about dominating the game by showing up every day. And as some of you have been avid listeners for quite some time, you probably come to equate that I share a lot of football analogies, and I'm a big fan of the game of football and often tie that into a lot of the business training and coaching that I do. So we're going to be in a treat for today. And we're going to be talking with a subject matter expert. Her name is A.Garrett. And before I introduce you today, you're going to really get a better understanding of how you can really move the ball forward. And you're going to hear that term quite a bit today, and how in this case, move your business forward. So Jennifer Garrett is an internationally recognized branding expert and the creator of Move the Ball Movement, who currently works with executives and professional athletes. That's the NFL, NBA, and etc. on creating powerful brands and using those brands to move the ball in business. Jen hosts the Move the Ball podcast, has 7 college degrees, is an Army officer, is a mom of 5, and is a former Fortune 50 executive and the author of the books Move the Ball, How American Football Can Help You Achieve Your Life Goals and Dominate the Game, How Life Changes When You Show Up. And you're going to be learning also about a new book that's on the horizons here. And without further ado, we welcome Jen Garrett to the show. Jen, how you doing today?
Hey, Chris, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
We are so excited to have you. And, I had the privilege of talking to you before we've actually here, live here on Business Influencers. And, you just got a great story and got so much great experience. I would just love to, if you could start to kind of just talk about, dominating the game and, what that means, what that phrase or that statement means when we show up each and every day, whether if we're working for somebody or we're thinking about starting a business or we already have a business, that's in operation. What does it mean to dominate the game by showing up every day?
Well, it first starts off by understanding what game it is you're playing. So you mentioned earlier that we're going to use the term move the ball quite a bit. And so in my book, Move the Ball, I analogize people to being quarterbacks in their life field. Here come the football references. And it's really up to you to drive that forward ball movement. But you have to know what is the game that you're playing in order to be able to dominate it. What are you trying to do, right? What's the goal? Whether you're an employee in a company, what are their corporate objectives? Or you're a business owner, like what are you trying to do with your business? And once you understand the game that you're playing, then you can figure out, well, how do I dominate that? One of the ways is you dominate that is by showing up and taking the right actions every day so that you're moving your business forward or your team forward or whatever it is you're looking to achieve.
I love it. And when you think about dominating the game, you use football as the sport in the analogy here, and it could be any sport too. But when you think of the game of football, it's very strategic. A lot of times, people don't understand the game. They think it's just a bunch of guys out there just beating each other up and slamming into each other. But there's strategy to this game. Just like business, there's a strategy. And if we're going to dominate our game, we got to show up. But would it be safe to say we're not just showing up for the game? We got to show up for the game, and that game is every day. But we got to prepare. We got to be able to, do what's necessary. In this case, if it were practice, how are we approaching, I guess, practice in business that prepares us to dominate the game come game day?
Absolutely. I mean, showing up is not just about checking the box and showing up and being there and saying, I'm here and let me take what the day throws at us. It's about being strategic, being intentional, being deliberate. So planning out what are the things that we really need to do each and every day so that we are making progress. We are being effective with our time. In the new book that I have coming out here shortly, Dominate the Game, there's a chapter in there that's called Manage the Game Clock. And so we all have the same amount of minutes every single day. What we choose to do with those minutes is going to separate us from others that are playing their game. And if we're doing the right things, then we should be dominating each day. And so it's really about the preparation is part of it. So making sure that you're taking that time to think and do that homework, as I'll call it, so that you can map out, okay, this week, these are the things that I need to get done. And looking from a daily standpoint, identifying and blocking out in your schedule the key things that you really need to get done. It's not about putting as many meetings on the calendar as I can fit on there so I can look at and say, oh, I'm busy every day. It's not about busyness. It's about effectivity. It's about productivity and making sure you're maximizing each of those minutes that you have that you're devoting to the workday.
Yeah, I love that. So true. Now, if there are people that listen to business influencers that are at various levels in their career. They either work for someone, maybe they run a team, they run a group, and there's people that run their own businesses or thinking about starting their own businesses. But either way, depending upon whatever role that is, what would you say, like, to dominate the game? What would be some of the things that you could share would be that first step that start looking at doing something they haven't done before to make a change? Because change is always the hardest thing for a lot of people, even organizations overall.
Right, that's a great question. And so one, it's about being aware, right? You have to know what's working for you and what's not working for you. And then it's about making changes on the things that are not working. And the thing about making changes is sometimes the habits and the tasks that we have put into place to date have gotten us to where we are today. And that's great. That doesn't mean that they weren't value added then, but they might not be the right things we need to be doing going forward to continue to move the business forward in a productive and an effective manner. Things change, the landscape changes. Just look at now with COVID and this current market environment. We've gone through a lot of change in the last couple of years, and you need to adapt. So a common phrase we'll talk about is adapting and adjusting, right? So you need to look at what's working now, what's not working, take a hard look at that and say, okay, what changes are in order? But it's not just about what changes, it's why are those changes necessary? And when you connect the change to the why, then it makes it easier to not only get yourself on board, but to get your teams involved in making those changes, because you've got different personalities. Some people, they go with the flow, right? And they're ready. Let's move, let's change, let's be adaptable. There are other people that are a little bit more resistant to that. They like the status quo. They want to keep things the way it is. And that's not the way that we move forward. So connecting everyone to the why is it that we need to do things differently is important to be able to implement those changes effectively.
Yeah, I agree. If we don't have the why, then we don't really have anything to really plan for or draw from to execute. We're just kind of throwing mud at a wall or just kind of running around and see what happens, see what works. And it's like putting a Band-Aid on things. We're not really, we're not moving forward. I love what you just said on that why. When you think about a why, when you can get, that why, and you can get the buy-in from the people that are involved in that why, what would be the next step? Is it preparing, breaking things down into things that we can either control and focus, what we could focus and control and not get caught up in the things we can't control. Because that's a lot of times we see a lot of people getting caught up. But even on the football field, I find that the people that think think first before they respond or execute are the ones that usually win more games. So if you could kind of talk about that would be very highly beneficial for the listening audience.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that came to mind. One, controlling what you can control. That's a common phrase that people say on the football field or in the locker room, because there's so many things outside of your influence and your ability to effectuate. So you need to tune out all that stuff because you can't control that. So you can't also stress over that. You evaluate that, look at how do we adjust as a result of the things that we cannot control, but you focus on the things that you can do and the things you can take action on. The second piece of that is there's a difference between a reaction and a response. And so a reaction is a quick, emotionally charged, usually set of actions that you're doing. It's not well thought out. You're not being intentional about it. You're just in the moment. Versus a response is you're taking that time to pause, to assess, to think through, okay, how should we react, or what should we do in regards to some situation that has happened. And so when you take that time, we're so conditioned to move so fast today, right? In today's environment, just things move a lot more quickly than they did 2 decades ago, as an example. But we still need to take the time to pause, to think through the ramifications of what we might do, to think through how can we level set our team so we're all on the same page. So it's really about 2 things: controlling what you control and not worrying about the rest. And then second, making sure that you're putting out well thought out responses versus just reacting. Because as you know, in business, people are so quick to let their emotions flare, and people remember that, right? It's not, and so you can't take those words back. And also, as leaders, as business owners, we have an image that we are portraying to our customers, to our teammates, to our employees. People are always watching what you choose to do. So you want to make sure that you're responding and not just reacting to things, because people will remember that.
I agree. Because think about it, if in football, if you react out of that primary emotion and it's anger, it's frustration, it's disappointment, because things are going to happen. There's going to be challenges, things beyond our control. It's those players that react that often now get called for unsportsmanlike conduct, or they make penalties, and penalties now move the ball back, or now you've lost, you either lose a down or you have to redo the down, whatever the case may be. And those are the things that are going to either be the difference in you winning the game or not winning the game. And I love how you stated that, and how we learn to respond, that we can learn to, even if we have to pause or pick another time to respond, so we're not reacting out of that negative motion or that primary emotion that could be negative. I love what you said there. What would you recommend for organizations that have operated that way, or any business, regardless of size? They have been operating, they've been reacting to situations, and they tend to kind of have to go, not that they're always in damage control, but they've had situations like that. What would be some of the things that you could recommend that they could start learning to start responding versus reacting? What would be that first step to kind of go about changing that over time?
Great question. Well, first, I would just ask people, if they're in that business where they're like, yeah, you know what, we tend to do that. Think about how much time you're wasting having to do damage control or repair relationships or navigate through a situation because you acted in a manner that maybe if you had just taken a few minutes to pause, then you wouldn't have to go through that. And again, it comes back to managing the game clock, right? I mean, you only have so many hours in a day. You don't want to have to be repairing relationships with customers or trying to, if you post something on social media, retract that and try to make yourself look good. And so it's really about, when situations happen, it's being mindful of, okay, we need to take a pause and think through, how are we going to respond to a situation. Sometimes it's a matter of not sending that email back to somebody, right? Saying, you know what, I'm being mindful. I want to say this, but let me put that email in the draft for a minute, and let me come back to that later when I'm not quite as emotionally charged. Because like we talked about earlier, once you sent it, you can't get it back. And then now you're trying to catch up or do damage control or whatever to repair the situation. So if you just try to be mindful of circumstances where you might be tempted to respond or react quickly, and just say, nope, I see this is a moment that I need to just pause and not act that way. It's all about just being aware. Awareness is what it comes down to.
Yeah, it does. And awareness. And would it be safe to say sometimes that awareness has to be more than once? Like, it's got to be maybe not that you're doing it every day, but, sending these reminders, because people tend to change over time through example and resourcefulness, not when we tell them to change. But if we're sharing this, would it be safe to say that if there was some frequency with that sharing that could help to impact people in a positive way to start making those changes from what they can control?
Oh, absolutely. That repetitive behavior is what then changes it into something that's an automatic response. And so every time that we catch ourselves and we decide to respond versus react, take note of it, or just put a little, for those that are like, well, I don't know if I have that self-control, put a little sticky note on your desk or some sort of reminder that you can just come to and look at as a cue to be like, okay, this is one of those moments where I need to just stop right before I go off. And so, but once you do it repetitively, take credit for that too, because you'll feel good about yourself. You'll get some momentum with that shift as well. And that comes with any habit, not just this reaction versus response. And that's how you implement change, is through one, connecting to the why. Why am I doing this instead of doing that other behavior? And two, celebrating the changes in the behavior. So that way it'll just become like clockwork and you'll just do it automatically.
Yeah, I love that, celebrating, because it kind of reinforces that reward that, hey, this was different. I had a different response. This was more favorable than actually, digging myself a deeper hole the other way around when I reacted out of a negative emotion. I love that. In terms of, like, I guess when anything that you can grow from, it's same thing in football, right? We can look at stats. And a lot of times we're not looking at the stats just after the fact. We're also looking at the stats like in real time, like what's going on right now. And I guess if we were to equate that to, the game of business, that those are key performance indicators. Would it be very important as we're making these changes that we look at where we are and how we're tracking this progress for this change and how this impacts whatever you're striving to improve, whether if it's absenteeism, retention, production, efficiency, of course, profitability, revenue, whatever that may be. Would it be safe to say that those could equate to also sports, football, and how that can relate to business as well?
Oh, absolutely. In whatever field you're in, you've got metrics that you're looking at, key performance indicators, right? And so making sure that you have the right thing, you're measuring the right things is important too, because you drive the outcomes that you want in your business based upon the things that you're measuring, right? So making sure that you have the right metrics in place and then aligning behaviors and tracking the progression of those metrics with those behaviors. And again, celebrating it, that recognition is so important. People will talk about celebrating the mini wins, right? I mean, especially I think in today's day where there's just so much negativity and distractions and noise, the more that you can recognize positive outcomes or positive performance, it just helps to continue to keep that positivity in the culture of your workforce, your employees, your team, and just for yourself as well.
Yeah, no, so sure. I love that. I love that. And if you can discuss, a lot of times this sometimes requires discipline. The game of football requires discipline. Mm-hmm. Without discipline, that as a foundation, we can't make changes. We can't grow. We can't look at challenges as happening, for us rather than most people react seeing it happening to us. If you could talk about the importance of, like, say, discipline in this process with business, and say the importance of the consistency that we're not doing this like once a week or once every other week, that we're consistent so these things can change over time.
Yeah, you bring up two great words, consistency and discipline, and they're important when it comes to showing up and being able to move forward in business, to move the ball in football or any sport. But the thing about discipline is, so people will say that motivation will only go so far, but discipline is really what keeps you going, because when you're motivated, you have that positive energy, you're going to show up in a way that you want to perform. But what about the days that you're not feeling it? Right? We're all human, life happens. And some days we would rather just be at home, instead of being, in the workplace or, running our business. And so the discipline is what's really going to keep you going on the days that you don't feel like it. And so you have to build that into your habits, is to, no matter how I'm feeling, I'm still going to show up and I'm going to do the things that I have to do, because that's what separates those that are successful in business from those that are not. It's that consistency. And we know, like, there's another quote about, it's not about the talent that you have, it's about the consistency that really leads to successful athletes, to successful leaders, because talent will only take you so far, right? So it's showing up every day and doing the things that you don't want to do when you're not feeling it, as well as doing it on the days that you're super excited and fired up.
I love what you just said. I mean, it reminds me, like, you could have a talented team of more first round draft picks, but they're more concerned with their own stats and their metrics, and they're going to jump ship when the time comes anyway to the person that's going to give them the most money, rather than the one that's, operating from more character, more from those core values, that's coachable and sees they can be coached to what's most important to the team, but maximizes their strengths and more in an interdependent versus codependent way. I've seen that maybe not currently, but back when the Patriots were in their heyday, and you had, Tom Brady was a 6th round draft pick. He wasn't a 1st round pick. A lot of players that weren't, 1st round players, but yet when they got on the field, they won games. They showed up and they won 6 Super Bowls as a result of that. That's an environment that wins, that dominates the game to win, and didn't have to do it with first-rate talent across the board. I'd love to hear about that too from you, with the from either football and business, if you want to combine it.
Yeah. So, the thing about the NFL is an example. So everyone's got their own journey. Some people are drafted 1st round. Some people are signed as undrafted free agents. But we've seen lots of different players who have been undrafted free agents or late round picks who have done very, very well in the league and had a very long career. And we've seen 1st, 2nd round guys who have been a bust, right? And so it really comes down to the people that are 1st, 2nd rounders. They have that natural talent that gives them that premier status, right? But they don't have that work ethic, that discipline that you need to have, because in the NFL, everyone's talented. And so you're already with the elite of the elite. So you've got to be disciplined and perform and train and do what you need to do and show up. And so that's why you see these other guys who are not top round picks that do succeed, because they understand the importance of, hey, I am here, I'm lucky to be here, I'm going to work my butt off and show up and be disciplined and do the things I need to, so that I continue to keep my job, because the NFL is a highly competitive business. If you're not performing that day, there's 10 other people that are waiting to hear their name called, right? So it's very different than in our business world, where you don't have someone that's on the sideline or that's a free agent waiting to get signed if you don't perform one day. So I feel like in the business world, sometimes people get more complacent because they don't have that quite that same
somebody waiting in the wings, like that could take your position or take the starting duties, so to speak, and within game to game or day to day in this case.
Right. But the people that succeed in business are the ones that understand, even though you don't have someone that's going to take your spot tomorrow if you don't perform today, they're still mindful of, how do I improve? How do I lead my team more effectively? If I'm an individual contributor, how do I maximize my game clock in a way that helps me to be a better performer, bring more value to the team? And so that's what the showing up is all about, is how are you doing the things that you need to do to not only perform, but to bring value to the organization, to bring value to your customers, to make sure that you're dominating whatever it is your game is.
Yeah, no, so true. I love that. And I know I want to make sure we have some time, because we're coming towards the end of the show, and I wanted to make sure to throw in a little bit about your upcoming book, Dominating the Game. I like that, I know it's coming out pretty soon. But if you could maybe shed some of the key points, what people can anticipate with the book when it does come out, that they can get their hands on it, and where they can get their hands on it, perhaps Amazon, Barnes & Noble, both, that type of thing.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm really excited about it. It's something that I've wanted to publish for a while, so it's neat to see it out here in just a few weeks. So The title is Dominate the Game, How Life Changes When You Show Up. So we've talked about the show up piece already on my Move the Ball podcast. I always end every episode by saying, until next time, make sure you suit up, you show up, and you move the ball. So this book is structured in those three parts. The suiting up part is all about your mentality, your preparation, not just the mental preparation, but the physical, like planning out your weeks, that kind of a thing. The showing up is, doing the right things to show up to the day so that you can be effective. And when you suit up and you show up the right way, you should then move the ball. So that's kind of the gist of the book. Managing the game clock is an important part of that. There's also a chapter called Take the Time Out. We also need to take time outs. We can't just grind until we drop dead or we're exhausted, right? So it's about being strategic, being deliberate with how we take care of ourselves as well. So that's another chapter. There's another chapter about the 1%, which is always focused on that getting better every single day so that you can continue to show up in a more effective way. So those are some of, there's another chapter called Control the S Factor, which is about controlling the stress, how to reduce the stress in your life, because it's a super stressful time for all of us. So there are things that we need to make sure that we're doing so that we're not just stressing ourselves out, because people always think that business is supposed to be drudgery and work, grind. And it's work hard, but it's also enjoy what you're doing as well. And don't kill yourself trying to build this great business or lead a powerful team.
Yeah, I guess that comes back to where you started with getting to the why and the purpose. Why do you do what you do? You find the purpose, create the purpose of how you show up, whether if it's your own business, if you're the leader, if you're working for someone, determine that for you. So that way you could show up and do it from a place of calmness and joy and peace, to be a contributor, in your business, your career, your industry, whatever that may be. Jen, thank you so much for all this information. How can people get in contact with you to learn more about you, other than that they know where to get their hands on the book? You gave them some insight. What is the best place where they can reach out to get to know you and connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. And so if you just search the hashtag Move the Ball, I made it simple, you can connect with me there. I also have a website. It's getinsidethehuddle.com. Again, football references. And then for the Dominate the Game book, it's on Barnes & Noble, on Amazon, like we talked about, but also you can get a signed copy at dominateandmove.com.
Awesome. We highly encourage those listeners, or those who will be listening later, please share this show with people you care about in your business, your customers. Take advantage of this. I would highly recommend get your hands on this book, preferably the autographed copy from Jen, which would even be better, because this is a game changer in terms of a book that will help you to start really looking at that, getting the concept down to help move your business forward. In this case, move the ball forward. So Jen, thank you so much for being here and taking time out of your schedule to be with us. We greatly appreciate you and wishing you much success with the book launch coming up shortly.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on today.
Thank you. And listeners, we want to thank you each and every week joining us here at Business Influencers. Again, we're so excited that as we move into the second year of the show, even though we're not following the calendar year here, but nonetheless, that we are so excited to continue to bring in subject matter experts like Jen here, that they share from the heart. So you're not getting cookie cutter information, stuff out of a textbook. You're getting real life experience, things that come from the heart and things they've actually done in their careers and businesses. Till then, everybody, we want to wish you all a great rest of your week. And we'll be here next week with a new subject matter expert and a new title. And again, we highly encourage you to listen to this show again in its entirety here on the TALRadio.org website, or Apple, Spotify, or our YouTube channel at TALRadio English. We'll see you next week. Have a great day, everyone.